it's always going to be self-doubt. Who am I to blank? I know so many more people that are way better and way more qualified and a million things, right? We all have those lists of people that should be doing what we were trying to do. But then I have to remember, like, but God created me in a unique way to do my own work. I don't have to be her or him. He just wants me to be Haley. He wants me to grow in being truly who I am.
Are you a woman who knows God is calling you to something more, but you're unsure where to start or how to grow it into something impactful? You are not alone, and you're in the right place. Welcome to the Arise Women of God podcast, a show for Christian women who feel called to shine His light and step into their divine purpose. Each week, you'll hear stories of faithful women, both from the Bible and today, who heard God's voice and chose to say yes, even when it felt uncomfortable or uncertain to step with faith into the unknown. You'll walk away with encouragement, spiritual insight, and practical steps to follow those holy promptings in your own life. So let's arise together as women warriors of light. Let's do it God's way, God strong. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Arise Women of God podcast. I'm your host, Tamara K. Anderson, and joining me today, we have another Woman Warrior Spotlight is Haley Murray. Haley, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
And I have to tell you just a little bit about Haley because I was able to meet her at a networking meeting a couple months ago, and she was showing us her horses, and it was just the most delightful thing. She did this wonderful example of showing us that the horses who trusted her the most followed her commands without reward. They would just follow her wherever she went, whatever she asked them to do, and some of them trusted her more than others. And it was the ones you'd had the longest, right?
Yep, yep.
Anyway, it was the most cool thing I think I've ever seen. Anyway, so she is amazing. And yes, we're going to be talking about horses today. But first, before we get into it, let me formally introduce Haley to you. Haley Murray is the founder of Horse Connections, where she creates events and opportunities for people to come and connect with horses. She has loved horses from an early age and for the past decade has dedicated herself to studying horsemanship and finding her inner cowgirl. I like that because I'd love to find my inner cowgirl someday. I don't know if I ever will, but maybe someday.
Totally.
She believes when you connect with a horse, you connect with yourself and hopes to share this experience with others. So, Haley, let's dive into you and your story a little bit. Obviously, you're hosting classes about helping women connect to their inner cowgirl, but let's kind of back up a little bit and take us on this journey of how you felt God calling you to do this. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, great question. So, even as a little girl, I've always loved horses. My dad's from Wyoming, and so we'd go there every summer to see my grandpa and his horses. And I begged my dad for years to get a horse, but he'd been a rancher his whole life, and so he was like, "No, no, we're good." And so I'd ride all the horses my neighbors had, but it wasn't until later, after I had had my last baby, that I got connected with a local rancher here in Bountiful, and him and my friend and I helped him with his horses, and in the process, I was able to ride his horses. And so then I started taking lessons and just learning all that I could, and I just loved the all of it, the hard, the easy, the connecting. That's really what I loved the most, when I could slow down enough to really listen to the horse. They really have a lot to say. And they challenge us, they inspire us, they carry us. And I just love that about them. They're so honest. They're just a mirror to our souls. And so anyway, over the last 4 or 5 years, I partnered with some friends and we did some workshops for horsewomen, and I loved it. It was so much fun. I learned a ton. And then as their businesses grew, we kind of parted ways. We were a little too busy. And so then I realized that I really missed doing those types of workshops. But I also kind of saw that there was this whole other, niche, right? People who don't have horses, but maybe also people that don't need counseling with horses or equine therapy, because there are amazing resources out there for that. And I highly recommend all of those. But I wanted to kind of provide a place where the everyday person or teenager or woman could also come and connect with the horse in meaningful ways, whether it's taking a riding class or working on our courage on the ground, or a liberty class where you learn how to cue and really join up with the horse and play with them that way. There's just so many great ways to connect with them. And so that's really what I wanted to do after kind of the dust settled and I, started my own thing. And so I just feel like God has called me to just share his light through this experiential learning with horses and in the mountains. Someday I really want to continue that work in the mountains as well. And um, I do retreats in the mountains, but anyway, just want to keep kind of building on that. So that's
Mm.
kind of in a nutshell my path so far.
Wow, that is incredible. So I just have a little bit of a follow-up question here.
Yes,
So
yeah.
you said that you love watching that connecting happen. Tell me what happens when people connect with horses. Tell me what you have observed, because I think this is powerful being with God and nature. And I mean, these are some of God's creations. How does that benefit us, first of all, as women? Because obviously he's guiding you to this for a reason. What is the gap that you see that this is helping with?
I think a lot of times we hide things or we pretend we're okay, but the horse always knows if we're telling the truth. So I love when people come and let's say they've never been around a horse and they're going to be nervous, right? They might pretend they're fine, but the horse you can see it like, oh, why are they nervous? And so I'll watch the horse's body language and I'll watch their body language, and then pretty soon as I kind of invite them to do something small like, hey, let's start grooming this horse, and they're like, I have no idea how to do that, and you start teaching them and they're touching the horse and then they're starting to connect with the horse. And there's a lot of science that shows when you're with a horse, soon your heartbeats will become synchronized. And so if the horse is even calmer, he'll help you start to feel calmer and vice versa. And so it's really cool to watch these two beings come together and teaching them like, okay, just try to breathe and let go of all your stress from today. And they really help make you become present. I think that's one of their greatest gifts. You got to pay attention. I worked with an autistic boy once, and I'm not a therapist, but it was my friend's son, and it was really beautiful watching because he could see it. He was so in tune with body language. He immediately knew what the horse was saying. And so that was really cool to see him really calm down when he could tell his energy was too much for the horse. He would immediately back off. And he was even more insightful than a lot of, other people. And so it's just watching two beings start to listen to each other and even help each other. And that is, I think, really the magic. And then when I start to teach them what their body language is saying or showing me, they become even more aware like, oh, you're right, I was nervous, or you're right, I was going too fast or asking too much. And so they learn that give and take. We call it feel in horsemanship. You have to develop feel, but I can't give it to you. Like it just takes time. It takes learning that moment where the horse gave to you for you to give back, to not always be a taker. And so that it's hard to explain, but it really is magic when that works, when that harmony is there. And then there's peace. Both sides feel very peaceful, and it's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm like, basically, God has called you to help people heal with horses, right? I mean, I think,
And
how
it's really the
beautiful.
horses. I'm just there, and the horses do it. because they failed me, but it's like that's the cool part. Like
Mhm.
they do it because they're so noble. It's
Mm,
not always pretty and easy.
mm.
I've had my ego handed back to me many times. I've had my fears showed up in a mirror and I'm like, "Oh, that's ugly. Oh, I don't want to feel that way." And so they show you a lot of
Mm.
good things, but it
Oh,
sure teaches you.
well, it sure sounds like it. Um, Talk me through now, when God calls us to do things, he often obstacles come up because the adversary doesn't want Haley out there helping women heal and feel more connected and confident and at peace. He wants us to stay in agitation. Um, what obstacles have you had to battle through to step into this calling that God has placed on your heart?
Holy cow. Yeah. It's always going to be self-doubt. Who am I to blank? I know so many more people that are way better and way more qualified and a million things, right? We all have those lists of people that should be doing what we were trying to do. But then I have to remember, like, but God created me in a unique way to do my own work. I don't have to be her or him. He just wants me to be Haley. He wants me to grow in being truly who I am. And so, yeah, that's a battle I face every day. It's like, oh, should I even try this? But then when I listen to my heart is always telling me, keep going, and fear and anxiety are also a big thing for me. So I was abused when I was little, and so I am very hyper vigilant, just like a horse. Horses are always reading the room. Horses are ready to run, and I've always been a runner. And so um, that's helped me kind of see that in myself and also helping myself regulate like, oh, just because I feel afraid doesn't mean this is true that a monster is going to get me. Just like I try to help a horse, maybe going through an obstacle. Let's say I'm asking a horse to walk across a tarp. That tarp makes a scary sound. He may have never seen it. And so I'm asking him to trust me. And if I haven't known him very long, he might say, no thanks, I'm going to run the other way. Um, but I know that the tarp is not going to hurt him, but he doesn't. And so I've seen that in my own self, like, oh, Haley, you can try this, but I'm afraid that's my tarp, whatever that is. And so God is like the horse trainer. Do we trust him enough to say, okay, God, I will take a step on that tarp. I will try it. And then knowing that we're okay, knowing he will have our back. um, it's been fun to see that play out with horses because then I'm like, okay, if this horse can do that, then I can show up and try to listen to what God wants me to do and help bring in the world too.
Mm. I love that so much. And I love that you exemplify just what you've learned with horses is an exact example of you taking steps forward with God. I love how the two parallel each other. It's so fun that you can draw on these beautiful animals to share your journey with God and battling your own self demons, right? The self-doubt, that imposter syndrome that we struggle with so much. And I loved your tip of listening to your heart, just pausing and saying, "No, God has called me. I'm unique. I can do it my way. I can do it Haley's way. He's calling me to do it Haley's way," right?
Uh,
That is a beautiful way to do that. And then you also mentioned the fear and anxiety, and I think we all struggle with that,
yeah,
especially with something new. And I liked your example of the horse and the tarp, because sometimes I think that's how God sees it. Like, come on, just come
it's
this way. And we're
fine.
like, it's too scary, God. I can't start a business. I can't do.
Yeah, I've never done this before. He's like, I know, you'll be fine.
So, so let me ask this. How do you feel your confidence in God has grown through this journey of stepping into, I'm doing this my own way, the way God is calling me to do it? Do you feel your relationship has strengthened? And if so, how? Any thoughts there?
Totally. Yeah, so a few years back, I I was visiting a friend and she had this horse that she was like, hey, I have cancer right now and I have too many horses. You should really buy this horse. And I wasn't really in the market yet. And I'm just like, I don't know about that. Anyway, ended up buying him. His name was Spiro and thought he'd already been kind of trained and started. And turned out he wasn't. He was terrified of most things. So most horses, when you start them, will take like about 3 months, maybe. Then you should be able to start riding them. Hopefully less than that, much less. But for him, it was like a year and a half. And I had two trainers tell me like, yeah, I'd be done. And I was like, okay. But I really felt like I literally, my dad, who's passed away, him and my grandpa both said, that's your horse. And so I knew like I was supposed to get that horse. And I was just like, I even named him Spiro, which means courage. And I'm just like, what the heck, you know? So I was kind of like, God, I really am trying to follow what you said, but like this is way harder than I ever thought it would be. And I don't know if how much longer, and I don't want to get hurt and on, right? So my husband was like, just hang on, just keep him. Let's just try a little longer. And I found this other gal, and she helped me all winter, and we kept working with him, and he was just so athletic that his fear would turn into pretty big stuff, right? Luckily, he never hurt me, and I never was riding him when it happened. But anyway, I remember we went to this clinic with her mentor, and I thought, this is going to be a total nightmare, right? He's going to freak out. I'm going to be the circus at this place, but whatever, I need help, so I'm going to go. And I'll never forget that horse totally changed. It was like 1 minute he was terrifying Spiro, who's going to blow up and buck and freak out. And then it was like all the pieces kind of came together. And because I was probably going to sell him like the next month, I was like, this is it, buddy. I've given you all my shots, right? And I'll never forget sitting in the crowd as we're waiting to go out and ride, thinking, oh my gosh, he's standing still. He's not freaking out. Okay, that's interesting. And then working with Bill, he helped us do some groundwork. And then we all got on the horses, and a lot of them were on colts who were real babies. And we were all riding around, and one of the horses got spooked, and they all started running towards me and Spiro. We were kind of in the back. And I'm like, oh, well, this is probably the end because I know what he's going to do. That little horse just stood there and almost like blocked them. He turned, didn't move a muscle. They all ran by us, and I could almost hear him saying like, I promise I'll keep you safe. And like that little moment with him just changed my whole perspective. I just thought, wow, if this horse can change, truly anyone can change. And so that really built my trust in God, because I was just trying to hold that little sliver of faith at the end, like, God, I did what I thought you said, and this isn't looking good. Things aren't looking good for me. And so that's also helped me in my business, because we all get to these little places where it's like, this just isn't working. I'm trying to do what you said, but I don't see the next step, right? Or things get worse for a minute. But that really taught me that like if your heart said to do it, just try hanging on another day, and another day. And then if it's time to cut your losses, you'll know. But otherwise, you got to hang in there. And so that's really what that horse taught me. And now he's an amazing horse. Best horse. He loves me. He always waits at the gate. And
Mm.
I think it's because I didn't give up on him and he didn't give up on me. And we have lots to learn still, but I believe we can do it.
Mm.
So, yeah.
That is such a beautiful story. I love how you tied your relationship with God in, because there is such a parallel there, you know? And we do feel like a scared horse sometimes, like I can't do this.
Totally.
But I love how you brought out the virtue of patience and trust and long suffering. I mean, these are all qualities that we're told to develop in the scriptures, right?
Right.
And sometimes it's so much easier to talk about them than it is to like put it into practice.
Totally.
Like you were
Yeah.
talking about years, working with him for years. And this isn't just a month. This isn't 6 months. This is, a year and a half. And you're trying to get him to trust you. And that is what patience and long suffering is all about. But it's amazing how God was teaching you a little bit about him and maybe backing up and seeing, like, I've got this perspective on this horse. You need to get this horse.
Right.
Like, sweet, it's going to be sunshine and roses.
Totally. The carpet is out. I bought the horse. It's gonna be amazing and perfect. Nope. But it was perfect because it helped me become more perfected in my relationship with God. It was
Mm,
ugly, and that's where God always finds me. Is it
mm. So perhaps Spiro is the horse you needed more for that relationship with God,
Yep,
right? Oh,
yep.
that's a really good way of looking at trials.
And I remember one day when I thought, I think I'm gonna sell him. I don't think this is gonna work. I happened to turn the TV on to Heartland, which is obviously cheesy, but good in some ways. I do like it. Anyway, and she had bought this horse and she was like, oh, debating between these two horses. And she was like, I know that horse over there seems like the perfect horse, but I think this is actually the perfect horse for me, for what I need to learn. And I feel like God was just telling me that, like, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be so worth it because of all that will come from it and all you'll learn and how he'll be transformed and that will help you as well. And I was like, dang, if I good thing we don't know all the time, right? All the steps. Oh. But it was cool. And one thing I wanted to share really quick, one day when going back to the fear idea, I had put like little plastic bags around the round pen and it was windy, lots of things like freaking him out, right? And then I tied a couple on his saddle because you're just trying to get him like, don't be
Oh,
afraid of sound. Don't, it's not going to hurt you because I might have a coat on one day that sounds like a bag. And what if I take it off and he launches, right? So you're just trying to like, you can't desensitize him to everything, but you're just building that confidence, right? And I remember like having him start trotting around me, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, there's a bag on my back. And I mean, he took off and he kept running and running. And I just stood in the middle watching, like, I'm just gonna let him figure this out. And and then I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I do. I try to run faster away from those fears, but they're not going anywhere. They're still they're still tied to my saddle. So I might as well slow down and see what is really, what's really there. And then that horse, bless his heart, he finally slowed down and looked at me like, "Oh, they're just bags." And then he came right in like, "Sorry, I didn't know what those were."
I had a moment.
And it was just really cute. And then after that, he was like, "Okay, I could do this." Oh man.
Well,
Yeah.
and I love that you bring this in that we need to be patient with ourselves because sometimes we don't realize what God is working with us on, right? Hey,
Yeah.
you've got this fear, this bag tied to your back. We're going to work on that. You're like, no, 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 no.
We're gonna also add some wind just so it's not too easy. We're gonna have a few things out here, but yeah.
Oh, that is such a beautiful story. I love I love that you see the parallels here, the
Oh,
parallels between Spiro and your journey. And it does sound like he was the right horse for you, right? For this journey of growth, for this journey with God, for this journey of healing. And it's so interesting now that Spiro and you are at a better place. He's like, now, guess what? You get to help other women through this process.
right.
How do you feel that going from where you were to where you are now helps you? Because often our the things that were our pains in the past end up becoming our passion, and God's like, look where you were, look where you are, now help others. Do you know what I mean?
Totally, totally. So yeah, I feel like you're totally right. Our pain usually becomes our purpose in some way. So like when I grew up, like I said, I was being abused, nobody knew, and my sisters were too. And then when that all came out, it was like, oh, thank heavens, we finally, let this out. And I was like, oh, I'm fine, it's all good. But then later, of course, as you become an adult, you're like, oh, wait, I still have a few few hangups from that I should probably work through. And then my parents also got divorced around that time too. So it was like two pretty big bombs went off in my young life. And so I was pretty freaked out about a lot of things, right? And so working with horses later in life taught me a lot about trying to let go of control and trying to really listen and really be present. It's like, I'm safe right now. No one's hurting me. And if they are, I know what to do. I'm not that little girl anymore. I can use my voice. And with horses, you have to be a good leader, a fair leader. They respect boundaries that are fair and they respect people who love them, but also have boundaries. Otherwise, they're going to walk all over you or they're going to become spoiled, just like children. And so horses have taught me a healthy way to use my voice. My dad was pretty assertive and my mom was pretty passive. And horses need you right in the middle. But sorry, my dad was a little more aggressive. So they want you to be assertive. They don't want you to be aggressive or passive. So I've tried to find that middle place, and horses have been the best teacher for it because, wow, I was pretty passive and then I'd flip to being aggressive. And it was like, oh, no, none of those are going to work. And so that's really helped me a lot. And so it's like, oh, how cool would that be? Because I understand what people have gone through. And again, I'm not a therapist, so that is a whole different thing. Find an equine therapist for deep stuff. But it's like, still, horses can teach you a lot in the everyday about confidence, courage, um, and learning how to set appropriate boundaries so that you're safe and they're safe, and that they're always looking for the leader. Who's the leader? And they really want you to be. Otherwise, they're pretty worried and they're trying to get back to their buddies. So in
Mm.
your partnership of two, you've got to be the leader, but it doesn't mean you're dominating them. You're just your partners, but you're the one saying, let's do this together.
Mm.
So that's been really helpful for me because I was like a middle child and I was just I was a fade into the background kid. Even now, it's hard for me, like, so you want me to show up and be seen, But I think that's maybe also why God's like, Haley, it's okay. You can do this. You can talk. You can be seen. And just, I love helping women and teens, especially. Like, I'll have faith groups come down and we'll do a session, and it is so cool to watch in like an hour and a half. These girls go from like barely looking or making eye contact to like leading these horses around. And I'm like, okay, go take them over there. You got to go through that obstacle. And so it's just really fun to watch that confidence grow as they feel empowered. And I'm like, you gotta back that horse up. He's crowding into you. And so they also learn those boundaries in a simple way. And I love seeing that. I wish I'd had that as a kid.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautiful and powerful. What an amazing mission. And I was just thinking of the parallel with the horse needing a leader and us needing a leader,
Yeah.
and our leader is God, right? And he's
Yep.
guiding us to do these things. And look at the joy that you have found on the other side of facing your fears. Your
Hmm.
joy is helping others who are facing their fears come out of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Totally. Fear is a dark, sad place to be. And so
Yeah.
if we can just put some light on that, his light, and like help people know like you're not alone. It's okay to talk about this stuff. And that's what horses, I think that's what's cool, is you don't have to talk about it. You can just go do something and you'll feel better. Whether
Mhm.
you just go brush the horse and just breathe with them for a minute, or if
Mhm.
you ride them, like there's so many great ways to do that.
Wow. Oh, Haley, this has been so fun to dive into your story, to hear your wonderful stories of Spiro, especially, but also seeing the difference you're making in the world today and what an amazing journey God has brought you on. Are there any favorite Bible verses that you've found that have helped you while you've gone on this journey with God?
Oh, yes. I mean, so many. One of the first ones that really keyed into this is one of the ones that actually says the pronoun she. Blessed is she that believed. or God um, will honor those promises. And it's Mary, that verse with Mary. And I loved that, for with God, nothing shall be impossible. And so I just thought, okay, I can believe. I can do that. I can keep showing up and trying. I can do this and this, right? And then I can trust that God can help me do what feels impossible, whatever that tarp is or that obstacle. Like with Him, anything's possible, right? And so not limiting God's ability to help us bless the world.
Ooh.
Because I
Oh,
think
that's
sometimes we
deep.
put these big limits on what He can do, and it's like, actually, He can do anything. Thank heavens.
Oh, I love
So,
how you said that. That is so powerful because you're right. We do, well, we put limits on ourselves and then that naturally projects to God. Well, I can't do that. You know?
right.
And God's like in the background going, "Oh, my young child, it's okay. You can, and we'll get there, but we're going to take baby steps."
And I love so many of the scriptural stories, like when they crossed the river Jordan. That river didn't move until those feet were in the water. Until those priests took that step, they still were like, I don't know, do you think this is really gonna work? And then it was like, God's like, I just need that step. And that's all I asked the horse. Can you give me one step towards that fear? Can you step towards me in faith? Just one little step. I will always accept that. God just wants us to keep trying.
Mm,
And then the miracles, big or small, He always has them. You just
mm.
have to keep going. Which is
Yeah,
easier some days
that
than others.
is, those are both beautiful verses. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing those. Now, Haley, I know there's going to be people who, after listening to your story, are going to want to follow you on Instagram or find you online. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram just at horse.connections.com. And I just started it, so I don't have tons of followers yet, but come along. I would love to share the journey. I would love to see some of you at my classes. They're fun and relaxing. And next year, the farm that I have my horses at, they're really going to have a beautiful flower crop. It's a flower farm as well, and they've done a lot of work down there. So I think it'll just be a beautiful place of healing. So I'd love to see you there. My website is horse-connections.com. And so that has some fun gallery pictures, lots of events. Obviously, winter's coming, so it'll be a little quiet for a minute, but yeah, I'm just really excited about continuing this work and love collaborating with people. You know, if you do events and maybe you just want to add a little horse component, reach out. It's always fun. I've gone to women's retreats and I've just done a little mini class, or there's just so many fun ways to add it in. So yeah, would love to hear from you.
Oh, that's so great. Any final thoughts, Haley, for women who are stepping into something God has called them to do? Thoughts, inspiration?
I think the best gift you can give yourself is to take that time, that quiet time, to really listen to your heart. Because whenever I do that, that's where I always find him. It's like he's waiting there. And so if I can get out of my head and all the voices and just like go inside for a minute, then I can always hear the truth. I can always hear what he would like me to do. And I honestly, the other night, I'd had a pretty rough week with horses. I was pretty discouraged. I thought, what am I even doing? Maybe I should just be done. And I took a minute to meditate, and I when I looked inside myself, I could literally see God holding my heart in his hands. And I just thought, okay, well, I guess that means hold on. And so I think just knowing like he's there, he's with you, and he will bless you to do your life's work. Just take that little step, and I know you'll do amazing things.
Thanks for tuning in to the Arise Women of God podcast brought to you by Women Warriors of Light. If you're feeling unsure how to move forward in your calling or just tired of doing it alone, Visit womenwarriorsoflight.com. You'll find resources, accountability, and a community of women who get it. Sometimes the calling feels bigger than you. That's when you need steady reminders of the powerful God who called you. Subscribe now for weekly inspiration and the courage to keep going, because with Him, nothing is impossible. And you're not the only one God is calling. That friend on your heart right now, share this episode with her. Your small act of obedience could be the breakthrough she's been praying for. Until next time, may you arise, walk God's way, and stand God strong.